because to
that
your, you touched on it earlier and we didn't dive into it at all. But to your point, I think there's a big problem that we're not seeing, and that's the lagging effects of this, which is how many people are not getting cancer screenings for colon cancer, for breast cancer, for prostate cancer, that now are going to identify in a year from now with stage 4 cancer instead of stage 1 cancer. And just because these people aren't dying today doesn't mean they're not going to die 5 years from now instead of 20 years from now because they didn't get their cancer screenings, or because they have mental illness now because they've been locked in their house and they haven't been able to see their friends and their family for 6 months.
Yeah.
So that's why I ask, because with this being the new normal, like I mean you're basically isolated away from everyone just with your thoughts, and they make it seem like it's, I mean, you're the walking disease within itself. And I know that could do a number on somebody's mind mentally, because I have met a few people that have contracted the coronavirus. I have seen quite a bit of things in regards to the coronavirus. So I had to ask you guys, because this is not going to be the new normal for me. I'm sorry. I have to live. Whatever's meant for me is meant for me. And I just have to live that way. I've always been that way. You guys know me. So I'm not going to stop being that way just because CNN or Fox News or ABC tells me that if I put my finger up my nose the wrong way, then I'm going to catch the coronavirus. I can't do it. It's just not something that's in me.
Truthfully, that's probably how I caught it.
What?
I'm just breaking them up, trying to get so I can blow them out.
Oh man.
No,
well, I'm just saying.
I know. No, I know. I get you. And I think going back what you said, and I think part of the problem is that people aren't necessarily alone in their thoughts. And I know you guys will probably agree with this. They're not alone with their thoughts. They're alone with social media. They're alone with their hypnotizing devices, their brainwashing tools, and they're being fed of what to think about every little thing. You see talking points on both sides of the spectrum from every, and it's like, huh? Like, what is that? Even from the right, from the left. And it's like, nobody's being practical here. Like, we stopped being practical a long time ago. And I feel like critical thinking and people thinking for themselves. And, me and James, we had this conversation a lot. And it's like, man, we see people and we're like, you really? Like, really? Like, is that...
What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, Scott brings up a really good point, and I think it's something that I see all the time with friends and family on both sides of the spectrum. Is it's so easy to get in your echo chamber now because of social. Before social was so prevalent, we had conversations. Hell, the three of us grew up in locker rooms with all kinds of different opinions and different, more than that, different experiences. So my experience is different than Scott's experience is different than your experience, right? And so you had those face-to-face conversations, and I might be going down some rant that was my experience. You may be like, hey, wait a minute, Ryan, this was my experience, and it enabled me to put myself in your shoes and be like, oh, you know what? That's a good point. Fair enough. Whereas now we could be having those conversations on social, but we don't, which is why I'm glad we're having these conversations, because now we just get in an echo chamber of the same people that think the same as us. And when we think something, we don't ever go look for opinions that contrast those opinions. We Google the question such that it'll give us the answer we want to get.
Yeah.
And then we're parroting that answer like, oh, is the coronavirus, no, like Scott may be like, hey, the coronavirus ain't dangerous. He might Google that and be like, see, these stats say the coronavirus ain't dangerous. And post it,
Yeah,
and everybody's clapping
right.
Scott up.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you need to be willing to change your opinion in the face of new evidence. And you need to, what I always tell people is you need to know the other person's argument better than they do, because it does one of two things. It's going to make you change your opinion. It might make your opinion move closer to the middle, which is often better for all of us, or it may in fact strengthen your opinion, but now you have more talking points of why your opinion is the correct one. And so I think I challenge people to go and find the opposing opinion and really, wrestle with it and see if your opinion still holds up. because opinions are just that. And let's try to figure out what facts are. But I also want to be careful because some people will find one scientific paper and that's the facts, right? And science
Science
is a
is settled.
process.
Hey, the
Science
science
is
has
a
been settled.
process. It's not a conclusion,
The
and
science
it
is
changes
always
all the
settled.
time.
The science is settled.
No, bro, eggs have changed 50 times in the last 30 years. So like, eggs are bad for you. They're good for you. Coffee's bad for you. It changes every day.
Yeah, I know.
So, I think we need to be mindful of that too. To your point, think for yourself.
Yeah. I think we should be cautious when anybody tells us the science has been settled. When you hear the science has been settled, you should always be like, wait a minute, has it though? You should really question everything. Like you shouldn't just take everything that's being told to you for gospel. Like it's the truth. Whether it's your pastor, whether it's your parents, whether it's, your boss, you still should always respect those people. But you should always uh, verify what's being told to you, so you don't just turn and hear what you've heard and just regurgitate the same thing. It could be false, and it could be so. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. We all misspeak. A lot of times I say things I don't mean, and so we have to be cautious and like verify for ourselves. And you're right 100%, Ryan, that it takes a lot of effort and courage to admit when you were wrong and to change course when there's new science. If it makes you look bad in the past, it's still important to set the record straight and to say you misspoke or you were wrong or you didn't know or what you knew now. And so it's being humble, I think, in a lot of ways, in saying, oh, I'm wrong sometimes.
I think that's the biggest piece of just being an adult, period, man. It's like you figure out that no, I don't know everything. And yes, there are other answers for what I'm trying to figure out. So when you become that person that knows every single thing and you're always right, that means you are the biggest wrong person in the world, because there's no way that anybody knows every little bitty thing. And so I agree with both of you guys, because at what point do we veer away from being right all the time and get to that point to where, okay, let me get the right information so I can protect myself and my family and continue to grow as a person. And yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. That's yeah, that's a big thing in this world right now. Ryan, what do you think, man?
The smartest, I'll tell you this: the smartest people that I know say the following two things all the time. One, I don't know, but this is what I think. Or two, I'm not informed enough to have an opinion about that. However, based on what I know, XYZ, right? And I learned that from guys like Sam Hinkie, who was the former GM of the 76ers, and Daryl Morey's that way with the Rockets. They say all the time, I don't know the answer to that. Based on the evidence I have right now, this is what I believe. And I think it goes back to, you're not always right all the time, but the goal should be to try to be right. And so that means changing your mind in the face. Like, I'm okay being wrong the other day. If there's new evidence, I'm going to change my mind because I want to be right today. I don't want to dig in my heels and stay wrong. What good does that do me? And, that's about that growth and that self-discovery and that willingness to be humble and try to learn.
What you think, Scott?
No, I agree 100%. A lot of things that growing up, in my 20s, I feel like I knew it all, and I felt like I was confident and arrogant and, yeah, okay, boomer, but there's a lot of wisdom to be learned from the older generations. And, one of the things that part of my job is that I work with seniors that are bowlers. And so there's a whole community of them that, and actually they're the ones that have actually made me more anti-mask. I'm not anti-mask all the way, but like not as like I got to mask up for every situation and clean everything. They're the ones that made me realize how silly some of the stuff is. And so working with them and some of the wisdom that they get and let me give you an example of them. They didn't want to do social distancing when we first opened back up. None of the seniors wanted to do social distancing. And I was like, are you sure? Like, this is kind of what the science is saying, right? And they were like, no, we're good. We're okay. And they didn't want to wear masks. And then we got a complaint from the city. So somebody complained to the city about us. And so we told them, hey, look, somebody saw what was going on and they wanted us to take these guidelines. And so we did, and we followed those guidelines. And they tell me all the time how silly they feel like some of the steps are. I mean, we've got a World War II vet or a Korean vet. I think he's like 92 or something like that. He wears shorts every single day. It doesn't matter if it's snowing outside. He's gonna wear shorts. They call him Sarge, and the guy he has an immune system built up from I don't know. He's an animal, and so some of the things that I've learned from them is to kind of take everything with a grain of salt. You know, what you see is not always what it is, and so some of the guidelines and stuff that they've kind of pointed out is, okay, this is double take. You know, you're not at risk of COVID if you drink a water bottle. If you're walking around with food, you know, those are some of the things that are really silly, but it's kind of what we have to do to continue normal life. And that's why I'm not accepting this new normal type thing. I've kind of changed all that. I can go on and on, but I went to the Gaylord recently, and I told my wife, I was like, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm just going to see what people says. See what people say. If somebody says anything, I'm gonna put a mask on. And so I went the whole weekend without a mask. Nobody said anything. I saw other people kind of like look at me and then kind of like take their mask off a little bit. And they're just seeing it as a kind of like a chain reaction. People were emboldened enough to just kind of take those steps. And then I saw moms kind of tighten their mask up and bring their kids closer when I took my mask off. So it was kind of interesting seeing how people react when they see certain things.
Ryan, he's gonna go through the grocery store and somebody's gonna throw a fruit at him like, "You're breaking the rules."
Oh,
but real
yeah.
quick,
I mean,
guys,
it's go ahead, brother.
I was just say real quick. So with that being said, like, I know that we've touched on a few things with the coronavirus, and Ryan, I know you better chime in. So, what do y'all think that we need to do in order to help change the thought process on this being a life ender? Go ahead, Ryan.
Man, I don't have a good answer because I think it's so polarized and people are so influenced by the media narrative that I don't know that you're ever going to change a large portion of people's minds on this. I think it'll be very interesting to see what the narrative looks like, you know, come December after the election, and depending on who gets elected. You know, I don't know if you'll see a shift, but you might. But I just don't know that even to like
What do you mean by that,
what
Ryan?
Scott's talking about, and well, just what you're talking about in Bryan College Station, that climate is very different than in Houston. You know,
Yeah.
Bryan College Station, Montgomery County, like they're not worried that much about masks. Whereas in
There are
Houston,
some
man,
places. Right.
you're not gonna see anybody. I was in Kroger this morning. There's not one person without a mask. You know, they might not let us go back to work till 2022. Like that's how crazy it is down here. And so, you know, I just don't know. I don't know if you're going to see people's minds change, given the media narrative. Too many people are not going to think for themselves. They're going to do exactly what the media tells them to do. And right now, the media is very alarmist that you have to wear your mask. I think at some point you're going to see a handful of people where, and if it hasn't already come, I just can't fathom why. But I think you're going to start seeing people that's like enough is enough. And I think as more and more people do that, you'll start to see more people out and about.
Yeah, I've got friends on both sides of I'm not wearing a mask ever, and you're gonna have to tase me and walk me off. And then I got friends that are like face shield, mask, gloves, like all of that. And I've seen both sides of it. And but what are your thoughts on herd immunity and kind of what Sweden has done is like completely opposite of what United States approach is, as far as like they didn't have any mandates. They said if you were sick, stay home. If you were at risk, stay home. But they didn't do any physical distancing and they didn't do any mask mandates. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?